All right, we are live. We've got Ryan in the booth again. What's new?
Hey, hey everybody.
Once again, if any of you guys want to hop in, I am not opposed to having anyone in here, but not everyone is free at 11 a.m. on a Thursday workday. So I get it. But last week, actually not your top scorer of the week. Your top scorer of the week was none other than Ryan. Can you guess who
Was
was
it
it?
Mark?
No, no, no. Player, individual player.
Uh,
But yes, Mark was the high scorer last week.
I don't know. Who was it?
It surprised me. Sean Tucker
Oh yeah,
was
that's
here. It
right.
was like 32, 33 points. Chris Godwin was 30, the second highest, and the highest starting player, even rostered player. And I could not find a gift for Sean Tucker, so I just rolled with Chris Godwin because I like to flex my guy here. So Chris Godwin being a stud. All right,
You're not
Ben.
sharing your. Hey, can you share your screen with me, by the
Oh,
way?
I'm not sharing my screen. Okay, my bad. Here we go. There we go. You see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got you.
Now we're good. Chris Godwin, stud. Ben is gone. Really, I mean, we'll get to it. No one stepped up on his gulag team. Everyone was kind of a bust, but he had some high upside plays that, in theory, could have given him a chance, but did not work out for him. 14th. Good stuff. All right, and Matt is in the gulag. He had Marvin Harrison Jr. put up a goose egg, so he got hurt, and Dak is terrible. You would think against the Lions, like from last year, we saw high scoring game, shootout. CeeDee Lamb goes for like 200, and Dak obviously has a good game as well, but that did not happen this time around. The Lions were there for a vengeance with the whole like Dan Skipper, or not Dan Skipper, but it was that whole
I know
O
what you're
line.
talking about.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking? Yeah, yeah. The O lineman reporting is eligible, called back, lost the game. All right. Top 25% of last week. Mark and I again on the slide, and Mark getting the back-to-back stars. David sneaking in here. Well, who would have thunk? David sneaking into the top 25% when he's like on the fringe of elimination here, seemingly. Average score here of 127, which is down 14% from last week. 147. It was a quieter week. Bye weeks took a hit, I think, on this top 25% average, but I think we'll bounce right back. Not too many buys next week, and then zero, or this week, and then zero buys actually week 8 next week. So, will be interesting when that happens. Bottom 25%, we got Fleming taking the trash can home, and then Huff and Potter. Both, in theory, pretty decent teams. I mean, actually, all three of these are pretty decent teams, but coming in at the bottom. Last week, the results were pretty odd last week. Like Phillip and Jake and David all not appearing here in this bottom when in theory they are the worst teams left. So, interesting. But an average score of 88, that is up 3% from last week, 86. And the scoring trends, yeah, we see it really here. The bottom comes down, the floor comes up. It was much more, well, and like it was all pretty tight this week. No one like blew it out of the park and no one stunk that bad. So, yeah, we'll see how the trends keep going as the weeks go on. Gosh, this picture is blurry. But anyway, the Sean Payton Saints Broncos Sean Payton revenge game. Pretty unexciting game if you ask me. Might not be unexciting for a guy like Jake if you're starting both Broncos running backs in your flex. Um, but in theory, the if like the game script goes as you might expect, where the Broncos secondary is elite, their defense as a whole is elite, and you got a rookie, not rookie. Wait, Spencer Rattler a rookie or second year?
I think he's a rookie.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, he's gonna struggle. He will struggle big time. So the Broncos will control the ball, and if they just need to control the game, they might be running a lot. So maybe Jake does roll with both Jaleel and Javante, but I don't know. He hasn't done anything this week yet, waiver wise. So he may pick up someone else to start, but he's probably at least starting Javante. I've got Sutton on my bench. I think Ryan Broncos D. That
Yep.
should be a great play. I think that'd be my top pick. If I had any pick of any defense this week, I'd want the Broncos defense. So
Very
should
excited.
should be a great one to have come out with a nice 20 burger start the week. I think. Shahid's out actually after I made this. Kamara should be a start, and I have Bub Memes on my bench too. I'm probably benching both these guys. There's a chance both of them have a right to be started. Means it's simply a volume thing. I think he'll get the volume, but I think he'll get locked up as well.
Yes, I mean, I guess is Surtain
Yeah,
gonna be on Bub Memes? That's got to be his easiest matchup
I
of the
know,
year.
right? So I don't love that. But like I said, these guys are available. Come hit my line. Low scoring, Broncos -3 over under 37. Don't look forward to this game whatsoever. Very unexcited about it. All right, but the Monday night, what I am very excited about on the flip side is another Monday night doubleheader. I think these make it so much more interesting for the guillotine purposes. I have a lot riding on these games. I have Otten. Do I have Otten? Yeah, Otten and what's his face? Chris Godwin. And I know there's going to be Lamar and Ryan. You have Andrews. There's Flowers, Derrick Henry, Baker. Then all three running backs have a right. If White plays, if he's not injured, then all three are in theory viable, although risky options. Bucky Irving probably being the safest of those. But I think if Rashad White is out, then Sean Tucker and Bucky Irving could both be good plays, even though the Ravens defense is pretty good. I think this will be a shootout. I mean, the over-under is 49.5. Also Mike Evans. And then the, to me, less exciting game, but still has a lot of fantasy implications on it. Chargers Cardinals. I don't know if anyone's starting Herbert. I really doubt it.
I have him on my bench, so
okay,
no.
there you go, on your bench. But Dobbins, Vidal, is that how you pronounce it? Vidal? But he...
I hope nobody's starting Vidal.
I mean, I don't know. Against the Cardinals and Gus Edwards on IR, he showed out last week. I mean, he's some flex upside, but he's a little bit of a risk. And then McConkey and Quentin Johnson are both somewhat flexible. I think McConkey's getting started. Someone picked him up this week from Matt's team. And I want to say Matt is probably starting Quentin Johnson as the Gulag team. And then Kyler, Connor, Marvin Harrison, and McBride, all startable guys. All guys that are starting. Huff's got Kyler and Connor, so I think Huff could have a lot riding on Monday. And I'm sure there's some other people here that have more than one person playing that are gonna have. I mean, Matt does. I'm pretty sure Matt took likely and has QJ. So lots of implications. A lot will be decided on Monday. Last week was kind of boring because it was already decided by like middle of the game on Sunday that Matt was done. It's just more fun for everyone, I think, if it's comes down to the wire, I would say. Oh, where's the head? No, there's supposed to be a head here. It's supposed to be Matt's head. But this happened last week with like the Phil picture. I don't know what the hell's going on with Canva, but anyway, as promised, I know all of you remembered. I probably no one did, but I said I was going to add the average points per week here. Obviously, it's going to be from people that are alive. It's going to be exact order of current standings. But for people that are dead, you can see where they stood. Like Jack averaged 91 before getting eliminated. And that includes his Gulag week where he scores like 70. So that pulls it down. The first 6 people are all going to be pulled down because I am including the Gulag week. But Jack is pretty comparable with like the bottom of the league right now. In theory, a little higher than that if he wasn't pulled down by that week. And then Matt goes out with averaging 94 a week, which is pretty respectable. It's not terrible, but he had one bad week this week. But Johnny and Mark leading the way. Johnny hit the 700 mark. He did not have a crazy week last week, only like 100, but still staying up at the top very strongly. But Mark is chasing him for sure. All right, the economy. We are down to exactly $600 left in circulation. Not a huge spending week. I think some of the biggest spends were like Amari Cooper for 21 and Marvin
DK
Harrison.
for 27.
Oh, DK was the biggest, 27. Marvin Harrison for 13. A couple other guys here and there. We'll get to it, but still, but 600 left and Johnny has 107 of it. Like that's 1/6, more than a sixth of the economy when there's 13 teams left, so it's not a good look for everyone else. I think Johnny needs to. I would appreciate it, Johnny, if you would spend some money or die, for everyone else's sake. Otherwise, you have a pretty clear path to victory here.
This is a sidebar and maybe a longer conversation, but I was texting with Fleming about a potential change for next year. Could it be to put in like a luxury tax, which encourages people to spend and not hoarding cash. And you set like, let's say it's
Tax the rich. Is that what
one,
we're doing?
yeah, it's like 160. Well, no, it's just, it's just sports, big four sports. Everybody has a luxury tax, I guess not baseball, but, if you have 160 after week one, like you lose X percent, or maybe it's
Like
140 after
brackets,
week
like tax
four,
brackets.
tax brackets. Yeah. Um,
I
and,
actually had the same thought. Like I never said it out loud, but I like thought like how could we de-incentivize hoarding money?
yeah.
But
Yeah.
at the
So
same
anyway,
time,
food for
there's.
thought.
Go ahead. I'll let you finish your thought.
No, food for thought. I was just gonna say, I think Johnny's in an interesting position in that, like, uh, I mean, I think he's gonna have to drop some pretty good players, like, assuming he spends his fab. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see how he does it. But go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like we're reaching that point in the season where your mid players that you like 2 or 3 weeks ago were even like tradable, like you could even probably trade them for fab, are now almost droppable. And it's like, man, like I feel that way. Transparently, I feel that way about like Sutton. It's like, when do I drop Sutton? Like I could maybe flex him this week. I mean, his matchup's tough. Actually, it's not that tough, but it's like I thought a couple weeks ago I was going to trade him and get something out of him, and now it feels bad that I'm just going to drop him for nothing potentially in a couple weeks. So we're at that point in the season where value drastically changes for players, and there's less fab in the markets. People are less willing to spend all that. So, and if they are going to spend, they're going to spend on someone better, not just like a fringe flex guy. So it's an interesting time of the season here. But yeah, I don't know. I thought about the whole I thought the same thing, like taxing a tax on people that are
Hoarding.
hoarding fab. But in theory, we shouldn't do that because they're in theory taking on a risk. The only way you get more than 100 fab is by losing players. In theory, you're trading away players to get money.
Yeah, I guess
Um,
here's what I would counter that by saying is, in a lot of cases, like, the people who have been in like the 140s and 150s have like been able to take advantage of somebody else's like desperation, and that's why they're at 160 or 170 or whatever, like I look at Jack, who paid Johnny like $50 for Jaden Daniels or whatnot. So
right.
uh I don't know if you should necessarily get rewarded for having the right Monday night player,
So maybe this would have to be a little bit more subjective, but like a desperation tax, where if you do one of those like fleecing because the other person was desperate going into Monday, and then you don't spend that money right away, it'll get taxed the next week or something like that. I mean, that we're getting really,
Yeah, I don't know how
really
you. I don't know
we
how you
determine.
enforce that. Yeah, that could cause some uproar amongst the league, but
Right.
we can massage it a little bit.
Yeah, it's an idea. We'll throw it out there. If any of you feel like responding to it in the chat after this, if you're watching, then feel free to chime in with your opinion. But I feel like it's a little dicey, and I'd almost be okay just leaving it as is and not taxing. Um, but yeah, I guess other things to point out here is after Johnny, it's pretty. You got JC, Jack, and Potter all in the 70s, and then me, Huff, and Mark in the 60s, and then everyone else is below the line. Matt, obviously in the gulag at 0, but Philip at 0, Fleming at 0, or Fleming at 3, David at 10, James stayed at 27, Ryan stayed at 34. So people kind of no huge moves this week, no trades at all, excluding trades that happened late last week, which I will touch on this week, and not too many crazy waiver claims outside of like DK. So that's where the economy is. And I was excited for this. Last week we only had Mark Andrews as a person that was on multiple eliminated teams rosters. Now we have 8. 4 that I've highlighted here as probably some of these guys were on, like these bottom 4 were on Ben's team last week, his gulag team. So like, do we really care about that? That's why I have not put up the pictures. But these guys in theory are still like fringy plays, like they're not nobodies. But Laporta got Jack and Matt eliminated. Andrews got Joey and Jack eliminated. Amari Cooper got Jack and Matt eliminated. And Najee Harris got Cooper and Matt eliminated. 3 of these guys on Matt's team. Last week he had picked up from eliminated teams in prior weeks, and he got eliminated. So I think these are kind of your 4 culprits, I would say, right now.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think Gibson, Likely, Pierce, and Palmer are done Grim Reaping for the season. So
yeah, hence why I did not take the time to crop their pictures out and put them up on the slide here. But 3 of them are on a roster. 2 of them are on Matt's, to be fair. His gulag team. But Philip is going with Antonio Gibson, and he might start him. But people that might need to worry about starting them in their lineups. JC picked up Laporta. Ryan still has Andrews, had him last week. Johnny
starting
picks
this
up.
week.
Yeah, and starting him this week. I saw that. Johnny with Amari Cooper and Fleming with Najee Harris. We'll see if one of these guys jumps ahead, knocks one of these guys out, and becomes the head Grim Reaper here. But just some guys to be wary of going forward for now. Josh Palmer not on a roster. No surprise there.
Yeah, I think he's done. He's done.
I'm
Grim
mad
Reaping.
about that still. Like Ryan, you were high on him at the beginning of the season. I was too. It's like, why would he not be the wide receiver 1 and have Justin Herbert throwing him the ball? That being a good thing. But
I mean, Quentin Johnson has always been just an objectively bad receiver. Bad hands, like all that sort of stuff. And, obviously, yeah, whatever. I'm over it.
Yeah. Tough. My reaction to this week is about QBs, and maybe they're more important than we think. And I know that's subjective. Some people do value quarterback a lot. I was a person in the draft who did not value quarterback that much. I thought, I can get by with whoever. And honestly, I've kind of got lucky and just made it work. Starting Dalton on his hot week, starting Flacco on his hot week. I've just been like swapping back and forth between random QBs that have good matchups / are filling in for an injured person. But in theory, there are numerous serviceable quarterbacks every week that'll score, say, 20 plus points. That's probably pretty okay if your quarterback scores 20 plus. But almost everyone who has gotten eliminated has had a bad quarterback production that week. We saw last week Matt with 5. Watson earlier in the year had 8. I think that was for Jack when he was trying to come back, or after he got resurrected. He still stood with Watson. Purdy for Ben only got 15. That's not the worst, but like you kind of want your quarterback to be like a solid production, a solid guaranteed like 20 point production to give you kind of a good floor. Joey with Rodgers scoring 12. Trevor Lawrence, I forget who had him, but it might have been Mitchell had Goff with 11. So just all these guys they didn't do that well when their teams got eliminated. So ultimately, you should really want your quarterback to score 20 plus to give yourself some sort of safety net. So that's my theory. That's there's really anything else to say about it. In terms of bye weeks here on the right, Cowboys and Bears this week. Not too many guys on bye, but there are some implications that I'll point out down here. And no bye weeks week 8, but then after that week 9 we have the Steelers and Niners looking 2 weeks ahead. I think Jake's in the biggest trouble with buys. I want to say Swift. At first it was like, Kyron is carrying Jake to safety when Jake's been in this tough spot, but really it's been Swift, because I thought Jake was screwed because Swift sucked. And now all of a sudden the last 3 weeks Swift has been like this elite running back that scores 20 plus points a week. But now he's on bye. And add on top of that, he's got Ferguson, who was a starting tight end, and Keenan Allen, who's coming off a hot week and would have been like a flex play, all out. So not a good look for Jake, who is also being very inactive on waivers. But James has CeeDee Lamb on bye, and Phillip has DJ Moore on bye. There are other guys that are on bye, but these are probably the most notable. Yeah. All right, getting into the graphs. What time are we at right now? Ryan, you don't have any conflicts, right? You can stay for the whole time, probably?
Probably have to hop around noon, but
okay,
hopefully we're done by then.
We'll be done by then. No worries about that. Fantasy Pros versus Sleeper. I was surprised to see myself, if you look at the vertical axis, I was the highest rated this week on Fantasy Pros. I'm like, wow, okay, I'll take it. I'm on the upper side of it for Sleeper, but a big chunk here in the green. Huff, Fantasy Pros likes him more than Sleeper. David and JC, Sleeper likes him more than Fantasy Pros. And then Phillip and Jake are in the red. And this will be the last week of the Gulag team. So going forward, these graphs will be much more centered and not skewed up to the right like they've been. But yeah, that Jake and Phillip seemingly in a bad spot this week. And your weekly versus rest of season, you still have Jake and Philip here, but joined by David and JC. Not looking good for the rest of season projection or their outlook. Huff and Ryan looking okay this week, but not that great for rest of season. And pretty much all the same names up here in the green. Mark, Johnny, me, Potter, James, Fleming. Pretty sure me, Potter, Mark, Fleming, John. Yeah, Ryan, you're the only person that did not stay up here. Slide over slide here because your rest of season doesn't look that great. But similar names in the green. And bringing in the budget versus the position strength. Same 5 guys in the green, except for James is now down here because he does not have that much fab. Fleming in a similar spot only has 3 fab. And his team is pretty strong, though. Jake and Huff have the budget, don't have that strong of teams. Even after Huff added DK, didn't bring him into the top half of the league in position strength. And Ryan, David, and Philip are in the bad spot here where they are pretty weak and don't have that much fab to work with. Ryan in a slightly better fab spot than David and Philip. And that brings us to the overview. I have Mark, Johnny, and Potter. Actually, I think me and Potter moved in. I think Potter was already there. I moved into the solid overall. I know that. And I bumped James over here. I mean, I still think he's one of the really solid teams in the league, but in theory, relative to everyone else, he has less fab, so I'm going to give him the questionable long-term. Same with Fleming staying there. Huff, JC, Ryan in this kind of undetermined spot where they're good in some regards, not great in others. Ryan, I think you're 1.5. I think you're looking okay this week. Is that the idea? Yeah, you look pretty okay this week on both Fantasy Pros and Sleeper. It's more of your long-term and your fab where you're slacking a little bit. And Huff and JC kind of in a similar boat. They're a little undetermined. And I have David, Jake, Philip, and Matt obviously in the danger zone. Philip, the only true 0, and like not the gulag, but has 0. And I have no one that in my opinion, falls into this category right now. I think anyone that's in trouble right now is just a bad team and does not also does not have a promising future, whether it be fab or just your team is bad. That being these guys. No offense. Yeah.
I have a thought, Eric.
Yeah, give me your thought.
I am curious. Like obviously, if you maybe go back, can you go back to the fab slide with the market shares for a second?
Oh, with the market share, yeah.
I guess I am interested to see if like the Jakes and JCs and Huffs of the world almost don't have that same advantage just because Johnny has such a high like market share right now. Like I wonder if they almost get penalized because Johnny theoretically would just continue to almost bully them into getting the guys that he wants because he's still so far ahead of them. Just something to look out for. Like I'm curious
what do you
how
mean
that
penalized
plays out. Like they're not able to get like to utilize their strong fab at this point in the year because Johnny is still always up, but they have pretty significant share of the market. So just interested.
I mean, that's true. I mean, what happened with me, I was up there with Johnny, not at quite at his level, but I was over 100 for the longest time, and I liked being in that position until I bid big on Kenneth Walker, and now I'm down here. So all it really is going to take is Johnny bidding one more. He just did the Amari Cooper bid, but one more like that, 20 to 30 bid, and he's down here with the rest. And it is an interesting spot.
I wonder how many more like 20 to 30 bids we'll see though. Just because of less fab in circulation. Like right. I think you can probably get now some of these top guys for 25, 20, 25 instead of 30, 40.
Sure.
But anyways.
Yeah, I mean the thinking is if you're one of these guys like Jake, who's in his team is not that good, so he's going to want to spend. I think the fact that they have Johnny like over their head, knowing that he has this much fab, if they really want someone, it might cause them to overbid to try to outbid Johnny in fear that Johnny would get them and not them. So I think that's what if Johnny holds this position, it kind of forces other people to, if they really want someone to, in theory, overbid. So if Johnny feels safe with his team without making big moves, which he might be, this is a very powerful position because it causes other people to either overbid or just... I mean, I think that's it. if people want someone, they're going to overbid in fear that Johnny would take him first. But and then once they do, let's say JC or Jake overbids on a player, now they're down to like 40, 50 fab. Now like everyone keeps dropping down while Johnny stays exactly where he is.
Yeah, I guess the last thing to monitor, then we can move on. But like I think you mentioned, like there's just such a like staunch just difference in like the quality of teams. You know, like if these I guess bad teams keep losing, like with
These
men, it
guys.
was like there really weren't like that many huge waiver claims. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that plays out too, especially if things go according to the chalk. Like I think we'll probably won't see a ton of fab come off the board in the next couple of weeks, but
Right, because you're saying the bad teams don't have good players, so there's not even going to be big waiver claims picking up their
correct,
players.
correct,
Okay,
correct.
yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think every team has someone worth bidding on, like David with Josh Allen, Jake with AJ Brown, Hurts, Swift, honestly, Phillip, injured guys, but like Nico Collins. So there's always someone worth bidding on all these teams, or else,
Sure.
But I get your point. Other teams like a Mark or a Johnny or a me or someone, there'd be a lot
It'll be a
of
free for all. Yeah,
yes. I think that's what Johnny's probably hoping for. He's hoping for a Mark, Potter, me, James Fleming elimination, maybe Huff even.
Yep.
Because there's lots of guys to grab on those teams.
Yep.
All right, into the personal slides. We're at 26 minutes. We're going to try to keep it at 45, as I said. We'll shoot for it. We'll try to breeze through these. There's less trades to talk about, so it should be easy. Mark, he goes and gets Marvin Harrison Jr. for 13. I think that's a great price, if you ask me. And that's kind of an example of the market shifting right now. You don't have to bid that much to get a pretty solid player. He is injured. He might miss one more week, but he might play. It looks like the prediction is that he won't play according to this graphic. Also, prediction is that Jonathan Taylor will not play according to this graphic, or else he'd be in here. But Mark's got a really good team. And 60 fab is not a bad spot to be, although it is like more middle of the pack now. He's got a really solid team. And one thing I will say about these starting lineup charts is you're not going to see that much red anymore, because it still considers a league an 18-team league. So green is 1 through 6, or 1 through 5 apparently. Yellow is like 6 through 13, or 6 through 12, and then 13 to 18 is red. But because there isn't really a 13th through 18th, we only have 14 teams, and one of them is Matt. You're not going to see a lot of red on these. So if you do see red, you are bottom right now, the very bottom of the barrel. Yellow, it means you could be pretty close to the bottom as well. So yeah, still pretty solid look here from Mark for this week. He's got a solid lineup, shouldn't be at any risk, even with some potential injuries, Marvin Harrison and Jonathan Taylor. But bad news for Garrett Wilson. He with Devontae Adams joining the crew over there, I think Garrett Wilson sees a downtick in targets, probably. Or, alternatively, more coverage goes to Devontae. Garrett Wilson can torch the second cornerback, and his production could increase or stay the same. Potential theories, but either way, we'll see how it plays out. He's got a pretty solid team. Back-to-back crowns, stars. I only have flames on my slide. It's a good thing to see. I enjoy seeing it. Godwin coming in big for me. I've been loving him. And now I get Justin Jefferson back. I did this on my Justin Jefferson bye week, so I'm happy to see that my team could pull through without him. I really made no moves this week. I picked up Bub Means. We'll see if he can produce against the Broncos defense, then I'm going to hold on to him. Except Olave and Shaheed might be back the week after, and then actually there's no reason to keep him. All right, never mind. But it was worth a buck, I think. Romeo Doubs came back from his suspension and did work. I think my team looked pretty steady. Didn't really think I needed to do much this week to be safe. But, yeah, that's all there is to say about my team. 66 fab. David getting the surprise crown flame this week. Josh Allen had a solid week. Demario Douglas stepped up. If I'm remembering back to the draft, David drafted Demario Douglas as like, oh, this is the Patriots wide receiver 1. And I was like, no, I don't think it is. I don't think he is. And then he dropped him, and now he's got him back because Drake May is a much more pass-oriented quarterback than Brissett. So Douglas should be a good – actually has him as his wide receiver too. So, I mean, that speaks to David's team. Not in a great spot now. Demario Douglas is your wide receiver 2. Wandale and Christian Watson are some good upside guys. Wandale's actually a great floor play, I'd say. He gets all the targets, gets a lot of targets and receptions. Christian Watson is definitely boom bust. But we saw what Evan Ingram can do back from injury and got like 10 catches for 100 yards, so that's pretty good. David has some promising guys here, but in no way is he very safe and only has 10 fab. But he didn't really make any moves this week, so he's sticking with his guys. James, similar thing, sticking with his guys, didn't do much. It was a quiet week across the league, but Jordan Love has been just fantastic. He doesn't matter which receivers are injured, but whenever Love has been healthy, they've been getting it done, and he's been putting up the points. And Derrick Henry, same thing, he's been a stud. So James has got a good top core to his team, and he's a little, eventually you got to stop playing Lockett and upgrade there, but he's pretty solid looking here. And Phil's team, another good performance from a team that wasn't supposed to do that great. In theory, I think I had him. He was my prediction to get eliminated last week, given all the scenarios. And what I said was true. I said you need Lamar and Bijan to carry, and Bijan has not been carrying. But Bijan finally scored last week and helped carry. Was his leading scorer last week. Lazard coming up big. Lazard, in theory, should be the real guy who sees an extreme decrease in production with Devontae Adams joining the show. So, might not be playable anymore, but we'll see. Phil's got some, not great looks. I don't even know who this is. Tracy, maybe, but he has a question mark at who his second running back will be after Bijan. Let me look at his team real quick. I know it's there's like 3 guys on his bench that he could also throw in there. Philip has Aaron Jones. He picked up Aaron Jones, which is a good move if he plays. But if not, then it's either Garenda, which could also be a really good play if Jordan Mason is out. He's got Tracy and Antonio Gibson. So lots of options here. Some better than others, depending on injuries. Hunter Henry does not seem like a great play, but I guess maybe it is against Jacksonville in London. He doesn't have a defense yet, but he'll figure that out. And
I don't hate the Hunter Henry play. I mean, they looked like they had some life.
You're right. You know what? You're right. I'm forgetting the Drake May thing. So it's a good point. Hunter Henry could be good. Last week,
hate it. Yeah.
Not the worst thing I've ever seen. But yeah, last week I forgot to mention the trade to get DJ Moore and 5 fab to traded away Tyreek. Not the worst thing ever, but Phil then just spent the last 13 of his fab on Aaron Jones. In theory, that's a good duo of running backs to try to roll with for as long as you can, but he has no fab now, so we'll see. Yeah, I'd say he's going to be pretty much scraping by at this point until he gets eliminated. It's a really hard path to winning the entire league with 0 fab and not having a good team either. A great team, that is. But he got it done last week, so what am I talking about? Ryan coming in, Monty doing his thing. I would say Ryan kind of has the 3-headed monster at running backs here with Montgomery, Kyron, and Brees. I think Brees is going to benefit from the Saleh firing. We saw it last week. Finally did what he should be doing. I don't know how he wasn't getting production the last couple weeks. Like, how can you be so idiotic to not get this guy going? But he's going to get going. He's going to keep it going, I think. Ryan's just a little weaker at wide receiver, but I think Juju's kind of a sneaky play that should be good going forward in the flex. You did not spend any more this week. Juju, the trade was last week. You grabbed the Ravens defense, but I think you're starting the Broncos. You grabbed Bateman, but you're not starting him. You did not change anything to who you're starting this week, ultimately, this week. And Debo, Josh Downs, not terrible, not studs, but they'll get it done. Stroud's pretty okay. So I honestly think the Broncos defense will carry you this week. Could be your top scorer outside of the running backs.
Would not say no.
Yeah, but no, it's funny, which I find crazy, regardless of matchup, that they have David Montgomery, as the 8th best flex 1. Like, are you kidding me? Maybe 8th best RB2. Like, that's even a stretch. Like, what are we talking about? He scores every single week. Calling him a low-end flex play? What is? It's the matchup. It's the Vikings.
I have him in a non-PPR 10-person league, and he is the number 4 running back on the season.
Yeah.
So I don't.
It's just the matchup. I think.
Keep He paid.
Yeah, like,
I mean,
I
maybe,
completely. I've never disagreed with like the analytics this much. Like, what the hell is this? He should be the RB, the flex 1. If he's below these guys in theory and is in your flex, he should be the flex 1, flex 1. But whatever, who cares? I think Andrews is your only risk, but you have other guys that are good, so who cares?
and that game will be a shootout, presumably. So.
Presumably, yep. JC, I think as a team that I've said has been kind of slipping down the rankings, I can say his team is semi-decent. He had Komet put up a big week last week, but now he's on bye. But he fills in with Laporta for pretty cheap. $4 is not bad, but Laporta is one of the Grim Reapers, so we'll keep an eye on that. And Chuba, in theory, will have to start splitting eventually with Jonathan Brooks, who I have, by the way. I'm not going to start him yet. I think he is in line to play this week. So that is something to watch, is that backfield. But Burrow, Kamara, solid. I think the big thing here with JC is he can benefit greatly potentially from the Devontae Adams to the Jets. So we will have to watch how that plays out. Other than that, Christian Kirk is not the greatest wide receiver 1 out there. Like I said, it's hard to be in the red because there's only 13 teams. So 12, I guess, is where red starts. J-Mo and Ty Chandler. J-Mo, I like J-Mo. Don't love Ty Chandler unless Aaron Jones is out, obviously. But they brought in Cam Akers, so in theory, Ty Chandler and Cam Akers are splitting work there. Yeah, I think that's it to say about JC. Still at 77 fab. Johnny, kind of a quiet week in terms of production. Joe Mixon and Justin Fields scored half his points. I'm realizing now he scored 100, and those two guys scored 50 combined. So the rest of his team was pretty buns, not going to lie. He had some injuries and some buys, I want to say, more so injuries like Neighbors. But now he's going to be starting Anthony Richardson. So that is an interesting play. I think the rest of his team is good enough that he can afford like a bust play from Anthony Richardson. But I did mention earlier, all the eliminated teams so far have had bad quarterback play. So maybe it's not worth the risk, but it's his only quarterback on his team, so we'll see. Johnny has not set his actual lineup, so thank you for that. You made me manually calculate your projected sleeper score because you decided not to set your lineup. But Mixon, James Cook should be... Oh, James Cook was hurt last week too, so that hurt him. Jaden Reed Bowers is a stud. Who is this? Brian Thomas and Madison? Is that Alexander Madison? But it's a solid enough team. I don't know what the Lions defense is going to do against the Vikings, but that's who he's rolling with. But Amari Cooper to the Bills will be something to watch because he acquired Amari Cooper. So could be good. Could be potentially really good, actually, for Johnny.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think he's got Diggs sort of potential from
exactly
2 years ago. So
I think there's top 10 wide receiver upside with Amari Cooper on the Bills. So
yep, I'm with you.
Something to watch. Big time. There's actually a lot of things to watch this week, given the trades of like Devontae Adams and Amari Cooper and some injury returning. Oh, I think Hawkinson might be returning from injury soon, so that's something else to talk about. I have him, but I don't think I'm going to start him this week. Maybe I will, actually. Who knows? Brooks returning. Lots of things to follow. Should be an interesting week. Jake, I mentioned the red because when we got here, I wanted you to understand how bad this is. He is bottom of the barrel, just about equivalent with a gulag team at RB1, RB2, tight end, in both flexes. The only bright side of his team is Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Zay Flowers, and the Bills defense, who they must have a good matchup this week, apparently. That being...
Tennessee, I think.
Oh, yeah, Tennessee should be good. Although I do hear they've struggled to protect the run, so Pollard is in line for, in theory, a solid week. But that's it. That's all the Titans have going for them. Judy... is this still Elijah Moore?
It'd be better.
Judy and Elijah Moore, the wide receiver 2 and 3 have now been promoted to the wide receiver 1 and 2. So, we will see.
Honestly, I was going to shame Johnny for putting Njoku on the block. However, Luna.
Njoku might have some upside.
He really might be the wide receiver 1 at this point.
Yeah, no kidding.
So
yeah, these are actually this would be his starting lineup. These are the only people he could even fill in, but he has a bunch of guys on bye, like I mentioned, and he has a bench spot available. No, actually, he does not have a bench spot available. He'd have to drop one of his 3. He'd either have to drop Geno Smith or one of his 3 guys on bye, and he would not drop one of those 3. So this is his lineup unless he drops somebody and makes a change. So it's not a good look for Jake this week. And Potter. I will say, I think this might be the fastest I've seen every single accolade be acquired. 6 weeks. It took 6 weeks for him to get the 4 different accolades. He's been everywhere, all over the map. So congratulations. I think that's the record to beat, is 6 weeks to get all 4 accolades. Different accolades, I should say. Jaden Daniels has been great for him. He has Barkley, who had a bad week last week, but should be fine rest of the season. Bucky Irving is going to continue to rise unless Sean Tucker somehow eats into his workload. Cooper Kupp. Wait, did I say... Wait, he has JMO? I thought someone else had JMO. Who did I say had JMO? That was wrong. This is not JMO. This is Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm so sorry. JC. Jahmyr Gibbs, not JMO. Cooper Kupp coming back. That's huge. Tyreek Hill eventually should start to work. Either the Dolphins should figure out how to use him and get him the ball, / Tua should be back in like 2 weeks, maybe. I don't know. I heard he's going to come back at some point this season. Pitt's a solid. JMO, he got McConkey for $3. Solid team. All there is to say, solid team. I think he has a really good rest of season outlook because he also has CMC. If in theory McCaffrey comes back sometime in the future, and Tyreek with Tua coming back at some point, should be great rest of season. So he has a lot to look forward to, but just needs to survive in the meantime. But he has Cooper Kupp coming back to help him out. Huff. Bad week for Huff. Algier came in clutch. I reverse jinxed it, or I just jinxed it, really. That Huff was screwed, and then Algier scored a touchdown and saved him, essentially. So Huff, I think, realizing he's in kind of a bad spot, finally spent. Got DK for 27, grabs Braylon Allen for $1, Vidal, Colts defense. Colts defense is a good matchup this week against, if I remember, I don't remember.
Miami.
There you go. I'm weirdly predicting like a Tyreek Hill good game, even though Tua's not back yet.
I mean, the Colts defense is bad, so
it's not great.
There's that.
It's like it's streaky. Like they're either good or bad. It's kind of like the Bengals defense. They're either like good or they're terrible, and there's no in between. But he's got some good plays. DK, Drake London's been good. I like Deontay Johnson's matchup this week against the Commanders. Should see good workload there. Achane is back, so that could be good. But he was bad, but without Tua before he got hurt, concussed. So we'll see. He could be a bad play too. And James Conner has a little bit of a tough matchup, but he's been solid. Kyler's been not great recently. So we will see. Cool to see him finally spend. And Fleming getting the trash can, picking up his second trash can of the year. McLaurin with a big week. He spends 17 of his last 20 fab on Najee Harris. His quarterback is Kirk Cousins. That seems to be the weakest part of his team. The rest, all of these wide receivers are really solid. Amon-Ra, Stephon Diggs, McLaurin, Mike Evans. Kelsey is benefiting right now from all the injuries on the Chiefs team. And the running backs are serviceable. And the Saints have a pretty solid matchup this week against the Broncos. So looking good. He has a really strong team, top 3, top 5 strongest team, but only has 3 fabs, so not great for the future. And last look at Matt. Ultimately, bad luck with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Dak is buns. That was really the story of Matt getting eliminated. Najee Harris had a good week. That was good to see. Laporta finally had a touchdown. That's good to see. But looking at what he did this week, I mean, I think he actually has a chance. This will be the last Gulag team. But I think there is a legitimate chance he has some upside plays. Gabe Davis, we saw score twice last week, so maybe that connection will continue. Alec Pierce, as we always know, is the boom-bust long touchdown guy. Could put up 20, could put up 3. You never know. Whittington, one of these. Yeah, Whittington, not great with cut back, but maybe will still work out. And QJ, decent upside. And Sean Tucker, upside there too. Justice Hill, also an upside play. He's playing a lot of these upside plays, which is good. And then Sam Darnold is solid, and Eagles defense have a good matchup against the Giants. In theory, a good matchup against the Giants. If he resurrects, he gets 18 fab back. And Ben is gone. No one stepped up for him. He's only had one double-digit scorer, and that was Daniel Jones with 13. Tough look. I don't think he had made terrible decisions on who he started. Just no one got it done. It'll happen. And my power rankings. This week, week 7, keeping Mark and Johnny at the top. I've got James bumped up into the 3 spot. Potter, because I like his rest of season outlook and the fab, I bumped him up to 4, up 3 spots from 7. Have me at 5, up 1. Huff and Fleming are the two falling down a little bit. Fleming's good, just doesn't have the fab long term. So I think by the time we see like these guys go, or the next 4 or 5, whoever it is, go, Fleming will probably start being in the danger zone because he won't have fab to improve his team from now and then until then. Ryan, you're up 1. Didn't change too much this week, but you've got some solid running backs. A little bit low on fab. And then I have JC dropping down 1, slowly slipping, but Devontae Adams could help. We'll see how that works out. Jake I have moving up a bit, really just because I think he's better than David and Phillip. That's all it is. I think Phillip's in the worst spot right now with 0 fab and not a great team, and David also does not have much fab and not a great team. Jake has the fab. That's why I'm giving him a slight edge. If he can just survive, like I've predicted him to die. I feel like he should die soon, but he has the fab. He can turn it around still. There's still a route for Jake to make it farther this year. And Matt, of course, in last. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
I was going to say, I think you touched on it earlier, but I didn't love Phil's trade for DJ Moore.
I don't like DJ Moore.
Yeah, I mean, I just think he could have gotten more for Tyreek, like knowing, like there's a few teams who are pretty well positioned who, when they can afford to wait for Tua to come back, and then you get basically wide receiver 1.
Exactly. Yeah.
And he got 5 fab for him. So, yeah, I think any chance he had of long-term success, he may have forfeited there. But
right. And if he can, I know Nico Collins on IR. I don't know if he's actually going to return at exactly 4 weeks, but if he does and Phillip somehow is still alive by then, there's a chance. But Phil does not have a lot of assets to work with, money or players. So outside of Lamar and Bijan, he'd have to, in theory, flip one of those guys for like what could be a good move is flipping one of those guys for multiple good guys, like multiple startable guys, which you probably could. You could flip Lamar into a serviceable quarterback plus 2 other startable guys. Someone might do that. I don't know. But yeah, things to consider. And last but not least, we're keeping it at 47 minutes. We're keeping it before 12 for Ryan to hop off. I will give my hot take, and this is probably the first time in a while I've given a legitimate hot take that isn't just like Jake or Phillip or whatever. Here's who I got. I've got Huff going this week because, and I will give my reason. I touched on it a little bit on his slide. He's projected pretty okay. I don't love Achane coming off the injury. He wasn't good before without Tua, and I just think the Dolphins are bad. Kyler does not have a good matchup against the Chargers, and he's been struggling. James Conner, same thing, has had a bad week last week, and now is against the Chargers. Good run defense. Tucker Kraft is kind of boom bust, it seems, and
doesn't DK have a DK has a good matchup?
Atlanta. DK has some upside. Drake London against Seattle is like a mid matchup.
And I think Deontay will. He's got Washington.
I do like that. He did pick up, but did not practice on yesterday, so we'll see. I think he'll play, and then Eckler's an okay play as well. Colts defense. I think it's the Kyler, James Conner, Achane, Kraft that I'm concerned about.
No, good take. Yeah, good take. I think I was thinking about it, and then I saw kind of his 3 wide receivers, and I was like, they should carry him through.
But he needs them to, if you ask me.
Yeah,
or
I agree.
He needs me to be wrong about the Cardinals on Monday.
Yeah. No, but I do think you're right. I am going to go with Jake.
That's where I was going to go until I changed my mind.
I think this is kind of turning into a TVR situation where, I'm not really convinced.
Owner.
Yeah, I'm not really convinced he's paying that much attention. Hopefully, I guess if you're Jake, maybe I just blessed him with getting through the next 6 weeks because that's what happened for Tom. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Jake. I think him and Phil was probably a close second, but I think Phil's
David's not that clear either.
I like David's team. I mean, not obviously long term, but I like his guys who he's rolling out there. And I think they have good matchups, and I think he will squeak by it again. But Jake's my prediction. I think am I 2 for 2 or 3 for 3, depending on how many.
You got Ben, and then who did you say?
I said Matt last week.
You did say Matt. Okay, so you're 2 for 2. I think you're 2 for 3 because I want to say the first week you gave a prediction you were wrong. I forget who it was. I know you have 2 right.
The first week I said Ben and Matt only survived because he beat Jack by 0.16. Yeah.
Still,
Although
you're
I
only
did
two.
say I think. Yeah, I did say I thought Jack would survive though, so technically that was wrong. But I did get the next person beyond the gulag, so
Yeah.
there you go.
You know what's funny is, I mean, going back to Jake being inattentive this season, not really paying much attention. I mean, if he's not even putting in waiver claims, I really doubt he's watching these videos. Like, let's be
He's
honest.
not. Yeah,
So
he's not.
he has probably not seen me predicting him to get eliminated every week, which is funny. I think if he did, he probably would have said something by now, like in the chat, to like roast me for saying he's going to get eliminated, and then he doesn't. But also in theory, if he's watched the videos, I do feel like I hold some kind of power that, or some sort of influence, where if I say you're going to get eliminated, I cause some panic in people, unless you're really confident in your team outside of what I say. But Jake, in theory, objectively, has had a bad team for a little bit here and has made it by. But his time is coming, whether it be this week or the next 3 weeks. I say it's give him 3 weeks if he doesn't make a move with his fab. But my hot take is Huff, and that'll seal the deal for this week. Any closing thoughts, Ryan?
Go get him, everybody. Best of luck. Don't get guillotined.
You know it. Don't get guillotined. All right. Peace out, everybody.